The first round of the NFL draft is scheduled to be held in Green Bay, Wisconsin on April 24th. As it stands right now, the Tennessee Titans, who finished with the worst record in the 2024 season, will select their first overall pick. Looking at the projected top 10 right now, Colorado Travis Hunter being selected with that top overall pick. No quarterbacks in this top 10 as it stands right now, but we all know that could change. We got our draft expert Ryan Wilson and Mike Renner joining us now on HQ. So Mike, bold statement to some, not at all to others. Colorado's two-way star, Travis Hunter, the best player in the 2024 draft. He is listed as a DB to enter the combine. What's your take on it all? Do you think he'll go #1 overall?
I don't think he goes #1 overall. I still think one of these quarterbacks just because of the need there. But if he does, it wouldn't surprise me because he's two players. You know, he is my #1 cornerback and my #1 wide receiver. I truly have never seen a guy with his level of physical ability on both sides of the football. So if you are to draft him, I don't think he plays both sides to the next level, but he can moonlight one way or the other. And if he's entering as a cornerback, I think it's a lot easier to moonlight as wide receiver offensively. Last year, though, 1,258 receiving yards, and he only gave up 222 on the other end. So he netted over 1,000 yards for the season for this Colorado football team. Yeah, I mean, anyone who takes this guy, you're just getting a star from day one.
Hunter said he wants to play on both sides of the ball in the NFL. He's being listed as a D-back, indicating that's where scouts believe he will play as a pro. But as you mentioned, we could imagine that we will be seeing him on both sides of the ball. Now, we've heard that defense wins championships. It's been a saying for years now. But watching this past Super Bowl, you got to say, I mean, yeah, that's completely accurate. Ryan, do you think this past Super Bowl helped Abdul Carter's rank rise up a little bit? Such a talented edge rusher for Penn State.
Well, Jenny, it didn't hurt him. I'll tell you that because to your point, in the era of passing the football and explosive plays, we saw what the Eagles were capable of doing on the defensive side of the ball and made Patrick Mahomes look human, which is really hard to do. But in terms of Abdul Carter, this is what we call an easy evaluation, Jenny. You watch him, you go, this feels like a guy who's going to be really good at the next level. He's only played edge rusher for one season. He was an off-ball linebacker before, sort of taking, including the number 11, the Micah Parsons approach to making his way to the NFL. And if you're a general manager and you take him, even first, but second, third, fourth, fifth, you ain't getting fired for that pick. You can go to bed and sleep well at night knowing that you hit a home run with that pick. In much the same way Aiden Hutchinson felt like an easy evaluation a few years ago. Of course, Trevon Walker went first. This is a different player, Abdul Carter. He's more juiced up and has probably a higher ceiling. And Aiden Hutchinson, a really good football player. But this is a guy who, the more you watch, the more you love, with the understanding that he's only going to get better because he hasn't played outside very long for Penn State.
Man, he was fun to watch. That elite burst, the speed that he had, just an enjoyable player to see from the sidelines. All right, we're going to jump to our first quarterback coming in at number 13, which, again, we're saying maybe that won't happen. But right now we have Cam Ward, 13, outstanding arm strength and playmaking ability. Mike, do you believe he will be the first quarterback to be taken? That's for sure. And do you really think we're waiting to number 13 to see him off the board?
I think he is the first quarterback taken, and I highly, highly doubt we wait till number 13 overall. To me, the difference just is physical talent. The guy has a cannon for an arm. His ability to put it on any level of the football field with pace is exactly what you're looking for at the NFL level. And then the creativity to his game. I mean, the guy has been a playmaker every single stop along the way. There's just a comfort level when you watch him play that makes you feel like he can handle the NFL. Now, there's aspects to his game that are obviously worrisome. You know, his footwork, his ability to consistently go through progressions on time. It's like there are things that need work, but we've seen him improve so much every single year from the super raw guy starting out his college career at Incarnate Word that I think it's easy to buy into this upward trajectory. And if he hits, he'll hit real big at the next level.
He became a Heisman Trophy finalist for Miami. Another Heisman Trophy finalist, Boise State's Ashton Gentry. He's just such a fun player to watch with the most rush yards in college football this season. Some have him going as a top 10 pick right now on the big board as number 14 there, Ryan.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, Jenny. He could go top 10, and you feel pretty good about it. Jahmyr Gibbs was inside the top 10. Bijan Robinson was inside the top 10 when they were drafted several years ago. Jahmyr might have been 12th, actually, but around that range. And here's the point. Ashton Jenney is in the same conversation as those two guys. The biggest issue isn't the explosiveness, isn't the ability to run between the tackles, isn't his ability to catch the ball coming out of the backfield, because he can do all those things. It's going to be how tall he is. But, Jenny, he's a running back. I don't care how tall he is. He could be 3.5 feet tall. The way he plays makes it clear to me that he can handle taking the ball 15, 20 times a game and also being an asset as a receiver. Both Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs are under 6 feet tall, and Ashton's going to be under 6 feet. The question is by how much and whether it affects his draft stock or not. But he runs low to the ground, great contact balance, and there's no one with more twitch in short areas than Ashton Jenney. And then in the open field, this seemed to happen a lot in his career, and I think it's going to happen at the next level as well.
He came up just 28 yards shy of Deion Sanders' all-time record of 2,628 yards. That was set in 1988. Now, speaking of Sanders, but we're going to talk about his son, Shadur. We're looking at a top 20 pick here. He's looked at slightly undersized. Mike, what do you like about Shadur?
I like his toughness. I mean, this guy got sacked a bunch over the last 2 years, over 80 times, and you never saw him shy away from contact. You never saw him kind of get tight in the pocket and really just accept that he was going to get hit. The guy attacked every single game, and this year more so than last year, he didn't fall into those sort of pits that he did at the end of the year. He didn't have any sort of backslide when things went tough around him. So Shadur, the accuracy is great. The ability to not put the ball in harm's way has been fantastic. In PFF's turnover-worthy play statistic, he had the lowest rate of any quarterback in this draft class over the past 2 years. And what I love, he didn't throw a single turnover-worthy play on deep passes this year. So when he was attacking down the football field, he was not doing so in a manner that was reckless. He did it when he was taking good chances. All that adds together to a guy who has a path to success at the NFL level.
We're jumping to number 23, Mykel Williams, and number 24, Malachi Starks, two of the three Georgia players in the top 50. What do you like about these two, Mike?
I just love the physicality that these guys play with. If you come from Georgia, you're going to play with that kind of physicality. But these two specifically, Mykel Williams, with how he plays in the running game along the line of scrimmage with 35-plus inch arms, he is a ready-made NFL run defender. He's a work in progress as a pass rusher, but this guy can play the run from the outside, from the inside. That's going to be coveted for a lot of teams that are trying to stuff the run nowadays with these light boxes. And then Malachi Starks in the open field, the guy almost never misses tackles. He can tackle in space, he can tackle in the box, and he can play any position on the back end. If you want him to play cornerback in your defense, I think he could do that. So the versatility of these two guys, I think, will be very much coveted at the next level.
Talking about teams with legacy players out there. Up next, one of my favorites, and I know I'm not supposed to have favorites, but it just happens. Coming in at number 33, we have Ohio State's Emeka Egbuka. Now, Ryan, you see him fitting in nicely with the Buckeyes' elite receivers that are already in the league?
Yeah, and by the way, Jenny, you can absolutely have favorites. That's the whole point of this. It's like we're sending our kids off to get real jobs after being in college, and I'm glad to hear Egbuka's a great guy, and you obviously spent a lot of time on the sidelines doing these Big Ten games, and our buddy Rick Spielman said the same thing you did. He's a great young man, but more than that, he is a professional wide receiver, and maybe he's not the athlete of Marvin Harrison Jr. or even a Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson coming out, but he does everything well. He can play inside, he can play outside. He's a big, strong, fast receiver, great hands. Is always where you expect him to be. And my comp for him was Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he's going to be faster than Amon-Ra coming out. Just that sort of physicality in the middle of the field. And that's why I love him. And Jackson Smith-Njigba was another guy. Jameson Williams had to transfer out of Ohio State. So there's a lot to love about Emeka Egbuka. He could certainly go higher than this, where I have him in my top 50, because he's a ready-made guy to come in and start day one and be your number 2, and then you go from there. One of the nicest players you will ever come across, I promise you that. Next up, we are going to stick with the receivers here. So we're going Bond. Isaiah Bond. Once the Alabama great, found success at Texas this season. Ryan, we got Bond as one of 2 Longhorn wide receivers in the top 50. What do you like about him? Yeah, so Matthew Golden made his move this season. I have him inside the top 32-ish, his running mate at Texas. But I was rewatching Isaiah Bond last week just to get familiar with him because it's been a minute. And he's got some juice, Jenny. This guy can play, and I think we sort of slept on him because he wasn't featured as often as perhaps we were expecting him to after transfer from Alabama. But that sort of juice shows up play in and play out when he has the ball in his hands. He did a much better job of catching the football this season. That was one of the concerns I had in terms of the focus drops. And in space, he's an absolute nightmare. He plays mostly outside, but he feels like he's going to be a versatile wide receiver at the next level. And the more I watched him, the more I saw Zay Flowers with better hands. So if that interests you, I think he has an opportunity to be a day 2 guy, and you put him in offense as a number 2 or number 3 and let him get after it with that speed that we saw consistently. We had the ball in his hands for the Longhorns.
I think that would interest a lot of people, actually, Ryan. I'll never forget Nessler's call of the 4th and 31 in the Iron Bowl. Bond, Isaiah Bond. Oh, such a good moment. All right, you two, incredibly busy right now. I do not envy you. Mike Renner, Ryan Wilson, we appreciate you. We got a busy season for our guys, and you got to check out their latest episode of With the First Pick. Ryan and Mike out there conducting their latest mock drafts. They have the full first round with trades on their latest pod. Check it out today.